You know, when you think of a city, you probably picture skyscrapers, right? Buildings reaching up into the clouds. Well, what if the next great city reached down, anchored to the ocean floor? It sounds like something straight out of science fiction, but believe it or not, it's actually happening. Today, we're diving deep into a project that's trying to build the world's first permanent underwater human settlement. And that's really the big question, isn't it? It's the whole idea driving this mission. And while it might sound a little philosophical, in a quiet corner of the UK, there's a team right now turning this exact idea into a very real, very steel reality.
And just so you know, we're serious here. This isn't some small-time experiment. The investment just to get this project off the ground, or, I guess, out of the quarry and into the ocean, is expected to be around $300 million. Yeah, this is a massive, large-scale engineering project.
Okay, so let's get into it. What exactly is this city, and where in the world are they building it? This is Project Deep, and its first home, believe it or not, is a 20-hectare, 80-meter-deep flooded quarry in Gloucestershire. Where most people would see a giant water-filled hole, this team saw the perfect laboratory, a naturally pressurized, real-world construction site hidden just below the surface.
But here's the thing, building anything underwater is a monumental challenge. I mean, to survive down there, you're not just fighting against water, you are literally fighting against physics itself.
So here's the main problem. Once you get down to their target depth of 200 meters, the water pressure is just crushing. It increases the load on any structure by 20 times. An environment like that would flatten a normal building in a heartbeat.
So that means you can't use the usual stuff. Not at all. Your traditional materials, they'd corrode and buckle. Those prefab panels, they just collapse. To build in the deep, you really have to rethink the whole concept of what it even means to build. And their solution is pretty amazing. They're using something called robotic wire arc additive manufacturing. Just think of it like industrial-scale 3D printing. A giant robotic arm literally builds the habitat structure, layer by tiny layer, using this custom-made steel that's designed to fight off both the insane pressure and the constant corrosion.
And especially after what happened with the Titan submersible, there is absolutely zero room for error. The team made a very clear choice, no shortcuts. Every single piece of this thing is certified to the exact same tough-as-nails standards as deep-sea oil rigs.
But you know, designing a building that can survive the deep, that's really only half the battle. The other half, the much more unpredictable part, is figuring out how to make an environment where people can survive and actually thrive inside of it.
One of the team members said it perfectly. The engineering was a huge hurdle, of course, but the really tricky problems, well, they didn't show up on any blueprints. The human element, that became the real challenge.
Okay, so get this. Take food, for example. A really weird problem came up in their pressurized tests. Everything tasted bland. Turns out it's not your taste buds. It's because of fluid shifts in your body and a reduced sense of smell. So what's the fix? A whole new menu, packed with spicy curries and rich, super flavorful sauces to make up for it.
But the biggest challenge wasn't the food. It was what was going on in people's heads. The early trials showed just how fast tension and stress can build up when you're stuck in a tiny space with no sunlight and no easy way out. That's why the crews now go through 12 to 18 months of training, just like astronauts, focusing on teamwork and mental toughness.
And you know, while all this sounds incredibly futuristic, the dream of living underwater is not new at all. In fact, for a short, brilliant period in the 20th century, we got surprisingly close.
Back in the 1960s, you had pioneers like Jacques Cousteau with his Conshelf program and the US Navy with Sealab. They proved people could live and work underwater. By the 70s, there were over 60 of these habitats around the world. But then by the 1980s, the funding just dried up and everyone's attention shifted to space. And out of that entire golden age, only one single habitat is still active today, the Aquarius Reef Base, just off the Florida Keys. And guess what it's used for now? Mostly for training astronauts, which is a pretty perfect connection between the challenges of outer space and inner space, right?
So Project Deep is really the boldest attempt yet to bring that old dream back to life. It's not just another experiment. It's a plan for permanent human infrastructure on the ocean floor. So where do they go from here? Well, the timeline is actually a lot closer than you might think. They're planning to have smaller trial habitats in the water as early as 2025. And after that, the first full-scale Sentinel habitat, we're talking a self-contained underwater home, is set to launch in 2027.
But what's the whole point? Why do all this? The ultimate goal is to set up a permanent base to explore the ocean's twilight zone. This part of the ocean has more marine life than pretty much anywhere else, and yet we know almost nothing about it. So to live there would be to unlock a totally new frontier of discovery, right here on our own planet.
Which kind of brings us right back to where we started. We began with this big, grand question about our future, and now we'll end with a more personal one for you. Now that you've seen what it takes, what it's for, and just how close we are, would you do it? Would you live underwater?